I'm Stevie B, and this is Speak Up Sunderland.
Like a million sparkling diamonds, its moonlit mirrors catch the eye. Framed by Siam's ancient trees, it's night along the quay. Two birds cast fleeting shadows as late they homeward fly. While heroes sleep, a wild thing cries, it's night along the quay.
This is Len Gibson, BEM. He's reading from his collection of poetry, which he's compiled over the past 100 years of his life. You've heard that right. Len Gibson turned 100 years old on the 3rd of January this year. The BEM, after his name, stands for British Empire Medal, which Len was awarded in recognition of his service to the community. Len's regarded as not only a hero in Sunderland, but also a national hero.
In camp where men are resting, there's many a moan or sigh betrays the sadness of their life along the River Kwai. By day they are forced to labour in heat or monsoon rain, tired and weak from hunger with naught to ease their pain. Their busy toil is over for just another day. The sun that burned and blistered has dipped and passed away.
During the Second World War, Len was a member of the 125 Anti-Tank Regiment Royal Artillery. Between 1942 and 1945, Len was held as a Far East prisoner of war. He was forced by the Japanese Empire to work on a railway which stretches between Thailand and Burma. The Death Railway. Len was one of the estimated 180,000 to 250,000 prisoners of war who were subjected to forced labour on the railway.
It's quiet on the railroad track, the tools are put away. No yelling guards, no hammering, no noise. It's time to rest and pray. And thank the Lord that one survived just one more day. And pray for those whose work is done, who've sadly passed away. The air is cold, the huts are dark, men lie in pensive mood, dreaming of those they've left behind, those they dearly loved. Someone pleads for water, another cries in pain. That corporal with the troubled mind is wandering again. I wonder if poor Robin will last another day. It seemed like only yesterday his best friend passed away. The sergeant has a little boy he says will soon be 3. I doubt he'll never see the day he'll sit him on his knee. And what of that poor Highlander they tied up to a tree? For hours the poor lad suffered there before they set him free. And some will never leave Siam. In quiet there they'll lie, a victim of inhumanity along the River Kwai. So let us remember them, no words of praise too high, for there they lie, our honoured dead, along the River Kwai. Two birds cast fleeting shadows as late they homeward fly, while heroes sleep in eternal peace along the River Kwai.
There are stories of Len's character and optimism, even during those dark days of close to starvation and torture. According to the Sunderland Echo, Len created a makeshift guitar out of old wooden crate and wires and would sing to his fellow prisoners to keep up their spirits. That passion for music continued throughout Len's life. After being liberated in 1945, Len returned to Sunderland to become a music teacher, passing on his passion for songs and storytelling to new generations. And later, he became deputy head teacher before retiring. If anyone deserves a peaceful retirement, it's Len. Len, thank you. Len's a well-known figure here in Sunderland. Usually Len would be delivering a reading at our city's Remembrance Parade. It's one of the biggest parades in the UK, the biggest outside of London. This year, because of the ongoing lockdown, the Remembrance Parade is moving online. Sunderland City Council are creating a series of short films alongside the day. Remembrance Day, for me, incredibly emotional. There's not a time goes by when I either watch it on TV or I go down there, Mulberry Park in Sunderland, and I don't fill up. See, it's happening already. I'm 52 now, and one thing I love about Remembrance Day is it's all ages. It never sort of loses any impact every year. It never loses attraction to people. It just seems to get bigger and bigger every year. It's very important, and I'm just really proud of what it is. So people get there about 9 o'clock. People stand there at 9 o'clock, or even 8 o'clock, lining up. So you're talking about 3 hours of people standing there, and generally these are like the old soldiers that's there as well. So the cold, and they feel the cold. The last post is something that you can't replace with something else. It's just the perfect piece of music. It's short, it's sharp, it's very, very simple. It's incredibly poignant. We'll never experience the World War that they have had, whether it be the First World War or the Second World War. The torture that they went through, the mental torture that they went through. I used to speak to my granddad, my great-granddad actually, who actually went through both World Wars. We used to think he was grumpy, but when he used to tell us the stories of what he went through, you felt really ashamed. He had to leave his mate in the trenches just to go and, I think, get a cup of tea or something. 5 minutes he was away, and when he come back, his mate had been blown up. And I can't even begin to comprehend what that's like. He said he's seen limbs all over the place. He's seen enough blood that he wants to see. He's seen like diseases like trench foot, where just because you're standing in water all day, it just rots your feet. And this is a man I used to call a grumpy granddad. When you see the veterans, firstly, you see some of them walking down the Sunderland one. Some of them can just barely walk. Some of them are in wheelchairs. Some of them are smiling though. Some of them are laughing because they're seeing the friends. Maybe they haven't been out of the house for long, but they've all got this camaraderie. They've all got this connection together because they've been through something that we, thankfully, will probably never experience.
Way back in 1939, in the first few weeks of the war, the men of Sunderland's 125 were guarding Sunderland shore, digging trenches, manning guns, filling bags with sand, guarding important buildings and patrolling round the land. One small group was sent to watch the harbour by Roker Pier, and they marched out down Doutlands Road and carrying all their gear. Arms and ammunition, things they were to eat, like bread and butter and tins of soup and jars and things of meat. The officer, young and smart, marched proudly to the fore, secretly worrying what troubles lay in store. They trooped past Roker's bathing sands and, nearing the old pier, stopped at a disused custom shed wherein they dumped the gear. The officer addressed the men. "I want a volunteer. I need someone to cook for us while we are stationed here." Not a sound was heard. Not a muscle twitched. Even the bird gulls overhead lost their calling. Those 125 men, they just stared straight ahead. Not one of them was volunteering. Come, said the officer, we can't do things by half. This food of ours will start to rot and then you'll have to starve. I'll cook, sir, said Tommy Cleghorn, if you cannot find another. Oh, and have you cooked before, my man? No, sir, but I have watched me mother. And what might you prepare for us? Said the officer with great doubt. I'll mak you what me mother makes, a pudding in a clout. With that the officer had no choice, but went off with his troop, leaving poor Geldart Cleghorn proverbially in the soup. Now Cleghorn's culinary prowess was less than elemental, but he knew to make a clouty pud a cloth was an essential. He looked to all the things they'd brought and began to sort them out. Ingredients were everywhere, but nowhere was a clout. At last he saw a cupboard, and he prized open a creaking door, and nigh 100 signalling flags fell out upon the floor. At 12 o'clock the men returned ready for their food, anxious to see what Tom had made of his mother's stout clouty pud. Well, some said the green bits tasted nice, and some preferred the blue, and Tommy Youngie said the best bit was of its crimson hue. The officer reserved judgment. He'd sampled French cuisine, but he did admit that pudding was the most colourful ever seen. And so history was made in that old Roker shed, and thanks to one man's initiative, some hungry troops were fed. Now, you may watch all Delia Smith's programmes, read every book on food, but you'll never find a recipe for a Cleghorn's clouty pud.
That he's reached 100 is incredible. That he's been through world wars and reached 100 is incredible. He's not only gone through the war, but then tried to cheer his mates up through the war. I just love it. I would just like to sit next to him and just let him talk. Because I think he would have a million stories, wouldn't he? He's just a Sunderland lad who does what Sunderland people do. You know, when all the chips are down, I will just inject a bit of humour. That's what we do, you know, and that's what we're all doing now through the pandemic. You hear people laughing and joking in the street now because what else can we do? Just bring a bit of humour into it. And clearly Len is of that character, isn't he? Clearly he is. There's this hushed respect from start to finish. But you know what? Then after that, after the 11 o'clock, when you have the last post on the trumpet, it's like a celebration afterwards. There's like Navy bars and Army bars in Sunderland that everybody then goes to afterwards, and it's like a party. Quick march! I think it's just because it's like a release afterwards. But you hear the conversations, you hear old soldiers talking to young soldiers, soldiers talking to members of the public. It's such a thing to be like proud of. Not just because it's Remembrance Day, but because we have the biggest one outside of London. I mean, how brilliant's that? We sometimes say our little city. It's just what we say in Sunderland. We're very quick to put down what we haven't got or how bad something is. And this shows on Remembrance Day. I think Remembrance Day is something that needs to be celebrated outside and in public because it's such a massive outdoor event, particularly for the veterans. So I think for it not to be live because of the pandemic that we've got, because of COVID, is so incredibly sad. But it's also great that it continues. It's going to continue online. Everything that we've done in the pandemic, how businesses have continued and how TV's continued because of like Zoom and that type of thing. I'm actually excited to see how good it's going to be. Not just excited to see what it's going to be like. I'm excited to see how good it's going to be. It could potentially be even more poignant.
Hello, it's Betty Ball from Speak Up Sunderland here. On our next episode, again in light of Remembrance Sunday, I am chatting with Professor Esther Johnson about her film Asunder. It's all about Sunderland in the First World War.
Trying to look at really local gems of stories and also kind of things that might not be collected in larger archives, which I'm very interested.
A poetical documentary using original music and nearly 100 sources of archive footage.
Monday, July the 3rd, 1916. The Great Anglo-French Offensive began on Saturday morning along a front of over 20 miles, mostly north of the Somme.
But Asunder focuses on people who remained at home, the women, the children, and the untold stories of the people of the Northeast.
It was hard physical work in a very male environment, but she played football with the other munitionettes on the sands near the Blythe Battery.
On past imposing rock scenery.
If you have not subscribed to Speak Up Sunderland already, make sure you do so you can catch the next episode. It's mint! We've got to go crack.